All right, hello everyone. It's Natai and Hans back again, and we are finishing. We're actually at the end of the last chapter, right? Of coming back. Well, there's an extra little thing at the end.
Yeah,
right?
a little about the author at the end.
Which we can read too.
We can read that, and
I
brought my Bhagavad Gita, so if you want, we could
jump into that.
Start the introduction or something.
Absolutely, we can do that too. We'll do this episode. We'll finish up coming back, and then we'll jump into that.
Okay.
All right, everyone. So. Do you want to start? How do you want to? Do you want to split up the reading in a particular way, or? Really
yeah, I mean, there's that little section there, so I can read and then.
Okay, I'll take over at that section. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, that should be about even, and then we'll read that last section. Alrighty. Thank you. Welcome everybody. Everybody, all of one.
Yeah, all of the one or two people that are watching. Welcome everyone.
We're doing this for us.
All of the people
that
will someday see this, maybe.
Yeah, our kids. Don't Come Back, Chapter 8. The sages of ancient India tell us that the goal of human life is to escape from the endless cycle of reincarnation. Don't come back, they warn. All in all, the situation of the living entity, caught in the cycle of birth and death, is somewhat like that of the Greek hero Sisyphus, the king of Corinth, who once tried to outwit the gods but was sentenced to a no-win fate. He was given the punishment of rolling a massive stone up a hill, but each time the stone reached the summit, it rolled down again, and Sisyphus, I believe. I remember the story. Sisyphus. Yeah, I don't remember the name of the dude, but I remember reading about him. Was forced to endlessly repeat his arduous task. Similarly, when a living entity in the material world ends one life, he must, by the law of reincarnation, begin another one. In each life, he works hard to achieve his material goals, but his endeavors always end in failure, and he must begin anew. And the reason they always end in failure is because we're searching after sense gratification, which is always bound to end in disappointment.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we are not Sisyphus. I don't know. I'm going to have to look.
It might be Sisyphus. I feel like Sisyphus. Sisyphus doesn't sound. Sisyphus? I could see Sisyphus. I could be totally wrong. I used to read so much Greek mythology.
I know.
Now I'm so.
And there is a way out of the cycle of birth and death. The first step is the knowledge that I am not this body. The Vedas declare, Aham Brahmasmi, I am pure spirit soul. And as spirit souls, we all have a relationship with the Supreme Spirit Soul, Krishna, or God. The individual soul may be compared to a spark emanating from the fire of the Supreme Soul. Just as the spark and the fire are of the same quality, the individual soul is of the same spiritual quality as the Supreme Lord. They share a spiritual nature comprised of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. All living beings originally exist in the spiritual world as transcendental loving servants of God. But when the living entity gives up that relationship, he comes under the control of the material energy. The eternal soul then becomes implicated in the cycle of repeated birth and death, taking different bodies according to his karma. In order to become free from reincarnation, one must thoroughly understand the laws of karma. Karma is a Sanskrit term that defines a law of nature analogous to the modern scientific principle of action and reaction. Sometimes we say, I had that coming to me. We often instinctively realize that we are somehow responsible for the good and bad things that happen to us, although the exact mechanism escapes us.
It's very true.
I mean, it's no different than for hundreds of years we knew about gravity. We just didn't know what to call it until Isaac Newton is like, aha!
Yeah, you knew that if you dropped something, it hit the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Students of literature use the term poetic justice to describe the unhappy fates of ill-motivated characters, and in the realm of religion, theologians debate the meaning of such aphorisms as an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and as ye sow, so shall ye reap.
As ye sow, so shall ye reap.
But the law of karma goes beyond these vague formulations and aphorisms and encompasses a complete science of action and reaction. So just because we don't know how to explain and define it doesn't mean that it is not happening.
Yeah.
Just as before Isaac Newton figured out gravity, it didn't mean that gravity didn't have a hold on everything.
Yeah.
So we can either live in blind ignorance. That, I was thinking about this the other day.
I think it's Sisyphus, by the way.
Sisyphus?
Sisyphus.
Okay.
Down here, it still has the I, Sisyphus.
Sisyphus.
Sisyphus. It might just be what we were
Sisyphus.
saying initially, honestly.
Okay.
It's hard to tell. It doesn't appear they're really elongating anything in that.
Yeah. Shoot, what was I saying?
The things that you...
the other day I'm at work. And I was thinking, that saying, ignorance is bliss,
Yeah.
is such a crock of bullshit. Because ignorance is only temporarily blissful. It's like the patient that comes to the hospital. You knew something was wrong with you, but you didn't want to come get checked out because deep down you were scared that, but then I might find out I have cancer, or whatever the case is.
I wouldn't even be bliss at that point, though. You'd be worried about
Well,
it
exactly.
anyway.
But even when we think that the ignorance really is bliss, when it's not something like cancer or anything, it could just be the smallest inconvenience.
Yeah.
But we would rather be blissfully unaware of our impending, rough road coming up in front of us.
Yeah.
But really, that saying is just it's so misleading, and it's such a,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a crock of crap. I would say knowledge is bliss, because when you really know, then you're able to save yourself the pain of, that's what a yogi is. A yogi is somebody who makes a sacrifice. And I have a verse from the Bhagavad Gita that I was reading, and Krishna is describing how everything is a sacrifice.
Yeah.
If you want... Actually, wait. I guess this is a good segue. Okay. If you want, material things, you need a sacrifice. You have to sacrifice your time to
money,
working so you can make the money,
whatever.
or you sacrifice, whatever it is. You have to sacrifice something to get something.
Yeah.
Or you can be a yogi that sacrifices, worldly pleasures for spiritual gain.
Yeah.
But you got to sacrifice something to get anything worth your while. You can't just be a lazy bum. It's Bhagavad Gita 424. Okay. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. How activities, and this is the purport by Srila Prabhupada, how activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness, and all of them will be described in the following verses. But for the present, just the principle of Krishna consciousness is described. And the really interesting thing about a lot of Prabhupada's purports, if you're trying to take this and apply it and talk with someone maybe who is not a devotee, if you just sub in, because some people hear the name Krishna and they don't, they're you're part of a cult, Krishna just, and then that's when I explained to them, Krishna just means all attractive one, which is the perfect name for God, because it's just in Sanskrit, so but if you just say, God consciousness or whatever it is, you can dovetail this to someone of another religion, and it's it makes it easier for them to kind of hear what you're trying to say. A conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in the material atmosphere, and yet he has to get out of such an environment. The process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness, or God consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk products is cured by another milk product, namely curd. And I think with that he's referring to you drink milk, you're lactose intolerant,
Yeah.
diarrhea, but then you eat curd and it makes you constipated. So, the materially absorbed conditioned soul can be cured by Krishna consciousness, as set forth here in the Gita. This process is generally known as yagya, or activities, or sacrifice, simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna, or God. The more the activities of the material world are performed in Krishna consciousness, or God consciousness, or for Vishnu only, the more the atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. The word Brahma, or Brahman, means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual, and the rays of his transcendental body are called the Brahma Jyoti, his spiritual effulgence. Everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyoti, but when the Jyoti is covered by illusion, or Maya, or sense gratification, it is called material. The material veil can be removed at once by God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. Thus the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together, Brahman, or the absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter dovetailed for the cause of the absolute truth regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman, or the supreme. But when the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi, or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yagya, or sacrifice for the absolute. So literally everything you do at all time during the day is then becoming a sacrifice to God, because you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for, the higher power.
Yeah.
In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer, or the leader of the performance, and the result or ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the absolute, the supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. I thought that was pretty
Very nice.
pretty swell bit of
Yeah.
Prabhupada dropping the knowledge bombs on us, I guess.
Interesting. We all want freedom, but we also don't want to suffer.
Yeah.
I was watching a show, which just if anybody else watches the same show, I won't say which show, so I'm not ruining anything for anybody, but somebody finds out basically that they were created for a specific purpose, like, like God, made them for,
Umbrella Academy?
No, not Umbrella Academy. That's a really great show, but that's what I'm talking about. But anyway, I don't want to ruin it in case somebody's watching and not up to the point where it comes out, but watching a show, and basically they were made, and I mean, it's sort of nonsense, but it's just a show, but made for almost as a miracle for someone else, to help save someone else. And then when they find out that's the reason they were made, all of a sudden they think that their feelings for that person, all these other things are fake, because I don't have control, I didn't choose this. Well, then this is a lie, this is and it's this attachment that we have just in general, this deep need to have been the one that decided it and controlled it. But at the same time, a lot of people also have, where if they're well, if he's all powerful, why didn't he just force me to not come down here and suffer? Why didn't he just force me to love him? And then I didn't have to leave to begin with.
Yeah.
Which is I understand that argument. But then at the same time, I think that for most people, if they found out that they were being forced to do something like that, they wouldn't want to do it.
You resist
and
it
it's not real love
automatically.
anyway at that point.
No, it's not.
Then you're not actually loving God. You're just being forced to love God. And so God wants you to actually love him. And if you don't love him and want to go do something else, he's all right, have fun.
Yeah.
It's not quote unquote really a punishment.
Yeah, we're not
it's
getting punished at all. It is
do your own thing then. Have a ball.
Well, another thing that you have to think about is we're in the material world. Even if we've been here, assuming that this is all true.
Right.
We're just going to make that assumption. So so just assuming that karma, all this stuff is true, and we're here, and we've been here for millions of lifetimes. From everything it's saying, the spiritual world is beyond the material world. So it is not constrained to the rules of the game here, namely time, which is one of the big ones.
Yeah.
So that being said, It's like in the movies. What were we watching the other day? Spiderwick Chronicles. The kids were watching it, and the dad gets taken away, and he's been gone for like 80 some years, and his daughter is now like an old woman, and he's like, I've only been here for a couple days, like. So in that sense, we are experiencing everything like, oh my God, we've been here forever. Like how horrible and cruel. But, you know, it may very well be just a few moments of,
right.
If you can even call them moments, because if time is not relevant there, then
yeah,
what are we even like?
It might.
I would liken it more to you're there, and you get how you're, you know, maybe at work and you just kind of like get lost in a daydream staring out the window.
Yeah.
And then you snap back to reality like, what was I thinking?
So real.
But when you're in the daydream, it feels real.
There's actually a story like that, isn't it? Yeah. Where like they see their reflection in the river when they go to get like water. And then Krishna comes over and kind of like goes, hey man, you all right? And then like he's back, and like the spirit soul just kind of like, I don't know if that's anecdotal. I don't know where that story, like I don't know if it was from
that sounds familiar.
But I heard that story growing up, that like, you know, the coward boy basically went to the river and was like, oh, let me get the water, and then saw himself in the river, but like in the material world, and was like holding all these lies and stuff, and got like totally sucked into it. And then it was only a few moments. Krishna was like, hey man, hey, you good? Yeah. And then he's like, oh,
lunchtime, bro.
Yeah. Like it was all of a couple seconds, but he thought it was like thousands and thousands and thousands of lives in the material world that he experienced in those few moments in the spiritual world. So it's really short, but it doesn't feel short.
The reason that,
or at least in that story, is really short.
Of course.
That could be slightly anecdotal.
But like Maya, we think, or you could think that Maya is, like, it's cruel of Krishna to want to cover us with Maya.
I think that's where people come from with the biggest argument against this.
I feel but the thing is, it's actually, you hear people say
that's,
that.
I think, the biggest.
But you're exactly right when it comes to free will. Love, by its definition, requires both parties to be invested on their own choice, on their own terms. So, because God is all powerful, all omniscient, all present, the only thing that we have at all is, you know, it's like someone being in jail. All of your physical freedoms are stripped away.
Yeah.
But you still have the choice over your own attitude, how you are going to, you know, every morning when you wake up, you can either choose to make the best of it or make the worst of it. You know, you can spend your time in the library bettering yourself, or you can spend time, you know, doing heroin and, you know, getting into all kinds of the other horrible things that go on in prison. Yeah. So...
And you're happier when it's your choice.
Exactly.
Even if it's the same thing. Your parents would force you to practice piano all day and all night, and you might not like it until you take a break for 3 years, and then you go back because it's your choice to do it. And actually, I do like this a lot. There's so many examples.
And
of things like that.
and so Krishna is like, well, I want you to love me of your own free will. And how can I do that? The only way for you to do that is to realize... Exactly. So Krishna's like, okay, I'm going to let you go. If we remembered Krishna, we would not... That desire that we have to try to see what it's like away from Krishna would be immediately crushed, right? So Maya is really Krishna's gift to us.
Yeah, to say...
You want to enjoy... The only way you can enjoy is if you forget who I am and your relationship with me. That's the only way that you actually can truly pursue your own enjoyment.
Yeah, so here you go.
So if you want to see Maya more as a
tool.
It's a tool that Krishna uses to give us
the gift of
material life. And, you know, and if you're in the spiritual world and you're not covered, you're not able to pursue that avenue. Yeah. So he's not punishing us for being here. He's created a playground, an open sandbox for us to come and play in. Yeah. And then when the two kids go into the sandbox to play and they choose to throw sand at each other, they're going to get sand in their eyes. And now they're going to learn, oh shit, like I shouldn't have done that. Yeah. Next time I'm not going to throw sand. So we're learning all of our lessons, and ultimately it's up to us. Like, when do you want to turn it around? You can sit there and you can, you know, you have some family member strung out on heroin and you can try over and over and over, force him to go into rehab. Yeah. Nothing's going to work until that person wants to change.
100%. They're going to keep needing things, keep making the same mistakes. That was quite the tangent. I don't even remember exactly how we got all there.
Oh,
But
it's easy to go down. I ramble too much.
No,
All right.
it was I think it was my bringing up the other thought, but it was on my mind, and something you said, like, it wasn't directly related to what you just said, but something when you were reading reminded me of that, and then it came back in my head at the end. Anyway,
Where was
I think you're at the human form of life, I think.
Where?
The bottom of this page, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Double check me, but I'm pretty sure.
Oh, no. But the law of karma goes beyond these vague... Okay, yeah, you're right. We prepare our next body, which may be higher or lower. The human form of life is very rare. The soul gets a human body only after evolving through millions of lower species. And it is only in the human form that the living entity has the intelligence to understand karmic laws and thus become free from reincarnation.
Hold on 1 second. Not to go on another tangent, but I want to double check something from chapter 5 because now I'm confused. I could have sworn in chapter 5 it says... Hold on. I wonder where. In chapter 5, I thought it said that we start as humans, and if we don't take good advantage of it, then we have to go down.
It did. You start as humans, and then based on...
I guess this is just saying that, like... Because the human form of life is very rare, the soul gets a human body only after evolving through millions of lower species. So it's not contradictory. I just want to read it again so I can understand how they're both
maybe...
true. Because I'm sure they are both true, and I just want to double check how that worded it, but I don't remember where in this it is.
He could just be also drawing the assumption that
saying that you
we
didn't
got
get
our
out
human
initially.
body,
We got our
we
human body,
obviously
we
didn't get out initially.
And then you go down and you have to work your way up. Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking.
That's what I kind of just...
I would assume. But just in case.
But yeah, no, that was a good point, though, because you're totally right. It did say that first you're given the chance
to just go right back if you had your stuff completely together.
Which that right there, if that's the
cool.
case, that's a blessing. Krishna's like, here, you have a life.
Yeah.
Use it wisely.
Yeah.
Clearly we didn't use it wisely. Or we could, who knows, this could be your first life. But I feel like if this was my first life, I would be a lot better of a person than I am. So that kind of lets me know that clearly...
Well, I think you would have both of as much karma and material wealth. I feel like you'd also be living a pretty blessed life in a sense in your first life. Like, you'd probably be one of those people consider super lucky, all those things that people like say about people. Like, I could be totally wrong, but just on the assumption of you have no karma, past karma to live off, you're just kind of existing in this negative, like this zero karma space. Other than whatever you're generating in this life, you're neutral, which means that you're probably living a pretty neutral life.
So I really bombed that existence, didn't
I? And you're just getting away with everything scot-free. Here we are.
Past us was very... Anyway. The human body is the only loophole for which one can escape the suffering of material existence. One who misuses the human form and does not become self-realized is no better than a dog or an ass. I love how he just kick you in the balls whenever he wants. It's like...
Yeah, and if you're going to live a mindless life, then you might as well be one, I guess. Not mindless, not to say dogs and asses don't have intelligence, but I just mean, like, in the sense of, like, they don't have the same ability to reason, etc., that we do.
For sure. No, yeah,
so if you're not going to use your reasoning,
the animal lives their life completely under the impulses of the senses. Yep. Oh, I want to have sex. Oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I need to chase something. Oh, I need this. You know, I mean, they're sleeping. I mean, who knows? Maybe they could be some yogi meditating in there. You never know. But all living beings originally exist in the spiritual world as transcendental loving servants of God. But when the living entity gives up that relationship, so see, we chose to give up the relationship, so that was free choice, our free will right there. He comes under the control of the material energy. Excuse me. The eternal soul then becomes implicated in the cycle of repeated birth and death, taking different bodies according to his karma.
What are we reading?
118.
We're here. We've been stopping so much we got confused. I was like, wait a minute. For a second, I'm like, man, did I miss? I'm like, what the hell did I miss?
Okay, cut that out, I guess.
No, it's okay. It's just a repeat of what we read earlier. But so no better than a dog or an ass.
Okay, I thought I flipped the page. Clearly, I was misguided. The reaction of karma are like dust covering the mirror of our pure original spiritual consciousness. This contamination can be removed only by chanting of the holy names of God, especially the Hare Krishna mantra. which is comprised of 3 Sanskrit names of God, Hare, Krishna, and Rama, pronounced Hare, Krishna, Rama.
I like that pronunciation because some of I hear people saying it all kind of ways.
Yeah.
Especially Hare. You hear Hare,
Harry.
Hare,
Yeah.
Harry.
Right. So Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. The power of this mantra, often called the great chant for deliverance, to free one from karma, is described throughout the Vedic literature. Srimad Bhagavatam, and so I just want to. Yeah, basically, your Hare is referring to the energy of Krishna. Krishna is referring to
I guess like the embodiment, the
Krishna,
all attractive one, the embodiment.
physically, and Rama is another name of Krishna. I don't remember the exact. But basically, the mantra is asking,
energy, isn't it? Because Hare is one side of his energy, and Rama is the. I'm not positive.
I don't. I was skimming through here, and it didn't
like
seem to say, but maybe it does. But basically, what it is you're asking. Oh, energy of Krishna, please engage me in the service of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, it's just something to do with your mind, too, to keep your mind, because you can't turn your mind off, so you might as well give it something to do that's more beneficial.
On it, Srimad Bhagavatam, the cream of the Puranas, advises, living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna. In the Vishnu Dharma it is said, this word Krishna is so auspicious that anyone who chants this holy name immediately gets rid of the resultant actions of sinful activities from many, many births. And the Kali Santaranya Upanishad extols the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra as the best means of achieving liberation in the present degraded age of Kali. In order to be effective, however, the Hare Krishna mantra must be received from a bona fide spiritual master, in the disciplic succession descending from Lord Krishna himself. And the reason why that is important is because so they talk often about, I mean, obviously you know about the disciplic succession, but just for anyone who may not, all it's referring to, and the Christians have the same, or any of the major religions have a similar idea, right? There's a message being passed down, right? Jesus is a direct liaison between God and you, the Christian person.
Oh, yeah,
and Jesus preached his message,
and then you take the message out. The commandments on the tablets brought down from the mountain.
Exactly. So there's an idea that okay, God is disseminating information, and then to his loyal followers, and the truly qualified followers relay God's his message without interpretation. Yeah. If it's coming from God, it's perfect automatically. Therefore, it doesn't need to be changed. And so that's what bona fide disciplic succession refers to, is it's not being, you're not putting your own spin on it so you can get more followers, so you can be the hip, cool guru. Yeah. You take it as it is, and that's why Prabhupada named his translation of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and that's why he keeps the translation separate from the purport, rather than creating some kind of commentary on, it's very important. Otherwise it's like playing telephone, and then you get...
at the end of that telephone circle, it's never what you said.
Exactly. And the way that you can tell when someone is preaching a message like that is when they're doing it without any, when they're doing it not for enriching themselves. If they're giving you the advice, whether it's painful for you to hear it or pleasant for you to hear it, they're telling you like it is for your own good, no matter what, and they're not doing it because you're giving them money or because you're, giving them a nice, comfortable place to live. They're doing, that's the whole, that's the whole point of a guru. And for a guru to not be corrupted, he has to be renounced. Because if you're not renounced, then you're susceptible to cushy living and money and, my followers, and you become all proud that you have all these followers. I'm such a renounced person. You become proud of your own renouncement. There's so many traps. Like the further higher up the ladder you climb, it seems like the sneakier Maya gets to be able to try to pull you down.
Yeah.
Like, ooh. In order to be effective, however, the Hare Krishna mantra must be received from a bona fide spiritual master in the disciplic succession descending from Lord Krishna himself. It is only by the mercy of such a qualified guru that one can become free from the cycle of birth and death. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya, who is God himself, declares, according to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems, meaning like the more hellish planets, or births, or whatever. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. How can one recognize such a bona fide spiritual master? First of all, he must be situated in the authorized line of succession descending from Krishna himself. Such a genuine spiritual master receives the teachings of Lord Krishna through the disciplic chain and simply repeats these teachings without alteration, just as he heard them from his own spiritual master. He is not an impersonalist or a voidist, but rather a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's why I remember reading once that some reporter was asking Prabhupada, kind of like hinting at the fact that, oh, you're just doing this for the followers and whatever, because the devotees had picked up Prabhupada at an airport, and they had a nice, like, pimped-out limo to come pick him up, and they put garlands on him. They're treating him like a king, right?
Yeah.
And so this reporter was saying, basically, oh, well, Prabhupada, or Swamiji, your followers are treating you like you're God, trying to kind of basically throw some shade at him. And Prabhupada looked at him and he said, you're right, they should. Or paraphrasing, they should. And then you could tell that the reporter's like, ooh, yeah, like juicy, I can jump on him, he's a fraud. And then Prabhupada like immediately cuts him down before he and he says something along the lines of, they treat me like God because I'm a representative of God. But a guru should never forget that my disciples are treating me like God, not because I am God, but I should take everything they're offering me and use it in service of God. I'm the conduit.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
Super powerful. You're like, ooh.
Don't get confused.
Moreover, for real. And it's so easy. You get showered with all of,
Yeah.
like,
it would be really easy to get confused.
really easy to get overwhelmed. You have thousands of
Some of
followers.
those people
and,
that learn and then turn it, some of those people that did actually start actual cults, etc., using
of course.
Vedic culture as like a baseline for their cult.
It's very attractive.
Because they were, but then they twisted it and got too self-important.
Moreover, the bona fide spiritual master is completely free from sinful activity, especially meat-eating, illicit sex, gambling, and intoxication, and is always absorbed in God consciousness 24 hours a day. Ooh. Only such a spiritual master can free one from reincarnation. Material existence may be compared to a vast ocean of birth and death. The human form of life is like a boat capable of crossing this ocean, and the spiritual master is the captain of this boat. He gives the disciple directions by which he can regain his original spiritual nature. At the time of initiation, the spiritual master agrees to accept the remaining karma of the disciple. If the disciple perfectly follows the instruction of the genuine guru or spiritual master, he becomes free from the cycle of reincarnation. Excuse me. And it's interesting there, they take the karma, right? So many of the gurus, that go around, especially the ones that have a lot of disciples,
they start to get
problems,
sick, cancer, having to get limbs like cut off, all kind of stuff happens.
And you could just attribute it to, oh, well, they travel a lot, they're stressed, they whatever, but either way, it equals out to the same result.
Yeah, they're giving up their material comfort for the
sacrificing.
They're sacrificing their material bodily, the comfort for
the benefit of
for spreading the message, basically.
Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, once wrote, "The Guru takes on a very great responsibility. He must guide his disciple and enable him to become an eligible candidate for the perfect position, immortality. But at the same time, if as a guru, you yourself are not bona fide and you're giving false instructions to others, you're also going to take reaction for that."
Yeah. Yeah, because
Because you're leading other people
leading people
yeah.
astray. Yeah.
Ooh. The guru must be competent to lead his disciples back home, back to Godhead. He often guaranteed that if one did nothing other than Shravana, to hear about Krishna, the supreme controller and cause of all causes, he would be liberated. And that's you.
Practical techniques for becoming free from karma and reincarnation. Activities of sense gratification meant only to please one's mind and senses are the cause of material bondage, and as long as one engages in such fruitive activities, the soul is sure to continually transmigrate from species to species. Lord Rishabhadev,
Yeah.
an incarnation of Krishna, warned, "People are mad after sense gratification. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body, which although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. As long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, or colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated to fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for God, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. And that entire thing was a quote. Looks like from the Bhagavad Gita 5:5. Why is there so many?
Looks like chapter 5, verse.
See what I'm saying? That's why I'm like, maybe it's Bhagavatam?
Bhagavatam, maybe.
That's what I'm thinking.
5th canto, 5th chapter, verses 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Bhagavatam.
Rishabhadev, yeah, that's from the Bhagavatam.
Okay. Yeah. That whole thing that I read was a quote from Krishna. So, but becoming free from the cycle, this is not a quote, but becoming free from the cycle of birth and death requires more than just theoretical understanding. Jnana, or knowledge, that one is not the material body, but a spirit soul, is not sufficient for liberation. One must act on the platform of spirit soul. This is called devotional service, which includes many practical techniques for becoming free from karma and reincarnation.
I think that's where I'm struggling right now. Like, I know the theoretical knowledge. Now I just need to go into the lab and.
I think that's what most of us are struggling on. We may understand it on a theory, on like the level of like, okay, so we're a spirit soul, but actually doing actions,
practicing is
basing your actions on the fact that you're a spirit soul and not on the needs of your material body is where a lot of us fall short. 1. So these are the practical techniques he's listing off. 1. The first principle of devotional service is that one should always chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 2. One should also regularly study the Vedic literatures, especially the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, in order to develop a thorough understanding of the nature of the self, the laws of karma, the process of reincarnation, and the means for becoming self-realized. 3.
That's cool. I have those books.
Yeah.
We should read them.
Right? I guess we have to read more books after this. 3. One should eat only spiritualized vegetarian foods. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that one should eat only food that is offered to him in sacrifice. Otherwise, one will become implicated in the reactions of karma. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yomi bhakya prayachati tadaham bhakya pritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion, and this is a translation, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 26. It is clear from this verse that the Lord is not interested in offerings of liquor, meat, fish, or eggs, but wants simple vegetarian foods prepared with love and devotion. We should reflect on the fact that food cannot be produced by men working in factories. Men cannot eat gasoline, plastic, microchips, or steel. Food is produced by the Lord's own natural arrangements. Right? Yeah, it's true. You have to you can't just make the food. We can't, they do put some chemicals in some of the food, but they've been pretty much all proven to not be beneficial for us.
Carcinogenic.
Yeah.
New study shows, right? Yeah.
Food is produced by the Lord's own natural arrangements, and offering food to Krishna is a form of recognizing our debt to God. How does one offer food to Krishna? The technique is very simple and easy to perform. Anyone may keep a small altar in his home or apartment with a picture of Lord Krishna and the spiritual master on it. The simplest form of offering is to place the food before the pictures and say, "My dear Lord Krishna, please accept this humble offering," and chant Hare Krishna. The key to this simple process is devotion. God is hungry not for our food, but for our love. And eating this purified food that has been accepted by Krishna frees one from karma and inoculates one against material contamination. Nice.
So that's step 3. Maybe when we're all done, we can go run through quick and do a recap on all the different processes, because I feel like these are very important.
Yeah. Step 4. Step 4 looks long. Or no, 5 is really long, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. 4. The positive principle of offering vegetarian food to Krishna automatically includes the negative principle of avoiding meat, fish, and eggs. Eating meat means participating in the business of unnecessary killing of other living beings. This leads to bad karmic reactions in this life or the next. The laws of karma state that if one kills an animal to eat it, then in his next life the killer will also be killed and eaten. There is also karma involved in taking the lives of plants. But this is negated by the process of offering the food to Krishna, because he says he will accept such vegetarian offerings. One should also give up intoxicants, including coffee, tea, alcohol, and tobacco. Indulging in intoxication means associating with the mode of ignorance, and may result in one's taking a lower birth in the next life. Coffee's going to be a tough one.
That hit a little close to home there. Yeah. Oh, God.
Other techniques for becoming free from the cycle of reincarnation include offering the fruit of one's work to God. Everyone must work for simple bodily sustenance, but if work is performed only for one's own satisfaction, one must accept the karmic results and receive good and bad reactions in future lives. The Bhagavad Gita warns that work must be performed for the satisfaction of the Lord. This work, known as devotional service, is karma-free. Working in Krishna consciousness means sacrifice. The human being must sacrifice his time or money for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Quote, "Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu, Krishna, has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world." End quote.
I think Bhagavad I read Gita. That verse to you, the other day.
Chapter 3, text 9.
Yeah.
Work performed as devotional service not only saves one from karmic reaction, but gradually elevates one to transcendental loving service of the Lord, the key to entering the kingdom of God. It is not necessary to change one's occupation. One may be a writer and write for Krishna, an artist and paint for Krishna, a cook and cook for Krishna. Or, if one is not able to directly engage one's talents and abilities in serving Krishna, one may sacrifice the fruits of one's work by contributing a portion of one's earnings to help propagate Krishna consciousness throughout the world. One should, however, always earn one's living by honest means. For example, one should not work as a butcher or a gambler. 6. I think I might have not said 5 when I started reading 5. 5 started with basically how to offer your fruits of your work to Krishna. 6. Parents must raise their children in God consciousness. The Vedas state that parents are responsible for the karmic reactions of their children. In other words, if your child incurs bad karma, you must suffer some of that karma yourself. Children should be instructed about the importance of obeying God's laws and avoiding sinful behavior, and should be taught how to develop love for the Supreme Lord. And parents should make them thoroughly familiar with the subtle laws of karma and reincarnation. 7. Krishna-conscious persons should not engage in illicit sex, i.e. sex outside of marriage, or sex not for the purpose of conceiving a child. It should also be noted that abortion carries a special karmic reaction. Those who participate in killing unborn children may be placed in the womb of a mother who chooses abortion and themselves be slaughtered in the same horrible way. But if one agrees to no longer commit such sinful acts, one can become freed from karmic reaction by inoffensive devotional chanting of the holy names of God. 8. One should regularly associate with people who are trying to become free from the influence of karma and who are attempting to break out of the cycle of birth and death. Because they are living in harmony with the spiritual principles governing the universe, devotees of Lord Krishna become transcendental to the influence of material nature and begin to display genuine spiritual characteristics. So just as one can contract a disease by associating with a sick person, one can gradually reawaken one's own transcendental qualities by associating with the Lord's devotees. By following these simple yeah, I mean, just like hang out with the right, kind of like
I
they
love
say bad
the way
influences,
that,
like,
yeah, no, it's not like he's saying don't hang out with those people. What I take away from that is you want to be hanging out with people, with more people that are positive to you than negative.
Right.
So
you try to schedule your time in such a way that you're having good influences in your life more often than not. Doesn't mean to cut everybody out if they're not like that.
Yeah.
But you
don't have to be fanatical.
Limit your time spent with such non-beneficial influences. Well, where am I now?
By following.
Okay. Yeah. By following these simple techniques, anyone can become free from the effects of karma. Conversely, one who does not follow them is sure to become entangled in the actions and reactions of material life. The laws of nature are very strict, and unfortunately, most people are unaware of them. But ignorance of the law is no excuse. One who is arrested for speeding will not be excused if he tells the judge that he was not aware of the speed limit. If a person is ignorant of the principles of hygiene, nature will not excuse him from incurring disease. And if a child ignorant of the nature of fire sticks sticks his hand into one, he must be burned. Therefore, to free ourselves from the endless repetition of birth and death, we must understand the laws of karma and reincarnation. Otherwise, we will have to come back to this material world again and again, and we must remember that we may not always return as human beings. And that's what you were saying earlier about ignorance is not bliss.
Yep,
You're saying right here, it doesn't matter if you know it or not. It's not excusable.
Yeah. And that, like, the way those three analogies he gives are so powerful. Of course. If you're an idiot and you don't wash your hands after picking your butt and you get sick, like, bacteria don't give a crap that you're a nice person. Like, you're still getting sick. And, you know, a kid could be the nicest kid, most well-behaved, but you say, hey, man, that fire is hot.
You sleep with somebody that has an STD and you get the STD. Just because you didn't know they had an STD before you slept with them doesn't mean you won't get it. The soul in its conditioned state perpetually travels through time and space. By the cosmic law of karma, it takes up residence in different bodies on different planets within the material universes. But wherever the soul journeys, it encounters the same conditions. As Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 16, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode never takes birth again, end quote. The Gita and other Vedic literatures are instruction manuals that teach us the real goal of life's journey. By understanding the science of reincarnation, we can free ourselves from the forces of karma and return to the anti-material regions of knowledge, bliss, and eternity. And
what a beautiful segue to the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, right?
Thank you for doing our work for us, Prabhupada.
It's like, and go read this.
So there's a little excerpt there that's like a page and a half.
Is yours connected on the bottom like mine is?
Oh.
Or can you actually read it?
Yeah, no, I can read it.
Because mine is...
so there's a little blurb about the author here.
I forgot to separate these pages.
Oh my god.
So mine is like a mystery. I mean, I guess you could really cut along the line. That's interesting. I've never seen that before. All right. So yeah, I'll let you read the...
Yeah. So His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The AC stands for Abhay Charan.
That's
That
his,
was his
birth
given
name.
name,
Given
yeah.
name, yeah.
His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada appeared in this world in 1896 in Calcutta, India. He first met his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, in Calcutta in 1922, so just after World War I ended. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, a prominent religious scholar and the founder of 64 Gaudiya Math temples, he was also a very powerful preacher. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and some of his teachings have been translated into English, his books, and wow, man, he is like fiery. Not in like some hell and brimstone kind of way, but just, whoa. It's like you go into a therapist and they just slam it on you, and you're like, oh my god. Anyway, it'd be interesting to someday check out some of his stuff too. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, liked this educated young man and convinced him to dedicate his life to teaching Vedic knowledge. Srila Prabhupada became his student, and in 1933, his formally initiated disciple. At their first meeting in 1922, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati requested Srila Prabhupada to broadcast Vedic knowledge in English. Prabhupada was like very well educated too. He went to I forget which college, and but he
most of it was still in the various.
They
Indian
were occupied
languages.
They were they were occupied by Britain at the time, so all of their colleges
were British. But I just mean like the Vedic texts were not translated really well. Anyway.
Not into English really,
Yeah.
and so he told him, "Hey, man, translate that and turn it into English," because
Yeah.
he could see that was going to be the future if you can bring it to the West. And now, really, the whole movement of the hippie culture and the counterculture coming over in the 50s, 60s, 70s came from India. A lot of it, Buddhism,
even the
became
parts that were a little bit
popular,
misguided,
Hinduism,
it all came from.
It did. Yoga. I mean, now you look on Instagram, and every other person's posting yoga pics and meditation and all this stuff. So it really exploded. In the years that followed, Srila Prabhupada wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, assisted the Gaudiya Math in its work, and in 1944 started the Back to Godhead magazine, started Back to Godhead, an English fortnightly magazine, and they're still publishing it today. Single-handedly, Srila Prabhupada edited it, typed the manuscripts, checked the galley proofs, and even distributed individual copies. And he was still married with children at that time, or had a family, The magazine is now being continued by his followers. In 1950, Srila Prabhupada retired from married life, adopting the Vanaprastha, or retired order, to devote more time to his studies and writing. He traveled to the holy city of Vrindavan, where he lived in humble circumstance in the historic temple of Radha Damodar. If you go there today, you can still see the room where he translated all of these, and they have a murti of Prabhupada at the desk with a pen in his hand. Oh man, it's super powerful. There he engaged for several years in deep study and writing. He accepted the renounced order of life, sannyas, in 1959. At Radha Damodar, Srila Prabhupada began to work on his life's masterpiece, a multi-volume, commented translation of the 18,000-verse Srimad Bhagavatam. Is right.
That's a big project.
18,000. Also called the Bhagavat Purana. He also wrote Easy Journey to Other Planets, which we both read, we should probably read that.
We could read that on here,
like on the side, because it's a small book like this.
It's a nice book.
After publishing 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada came to the United States in September 1965 to fulfill the mission of his spiritual master. Subsequently, His Divine Grace wrote more than 50 volumes of authoritative, commented translations and summary studies of the philosophical and religious classics of India. A lot of his books, too, if you go to, like, any of the prestigious colleges and universities and you're doing, like, some type of, bachelor's, master's, PhD in philosophy or other things, they'll often have you read his translation of the Bhagavad Gita. It was super powerful. When he first arrived by freighter in New York City, Srila Prabhupada was practically penniless. And he got on the boat over, he suffered 2 heart attacks and lived through. Anyway.
The Jala-Duta, right?
Yeah. Only after almost a year of great difficulty did he establish the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in July of 1966. Before he passed away on November 14th, 1977, he had guided the society and seen it grow to a worldwide confederation of more than 100 ashrams, schools, temples, institutes, and farm communities. I don't even know how many temples there are now. There's quite a lot of them.
All over the world, thanks to him.
Excuse me. In 1972, His Divine Grace introduced the Vedic system of primary and secondary education in the West by founding the Gurukula School in Dallas, Texas. Since then, his disciples have established similar schools throughout the United States and the rest of the world. A little side note there, my brother and I went to Gurukul in Vrindavan when we were younger, and maybe one day we could, God, it would be really cool if we could get Dhruva up here, and we could have like an interview talking about our experiences. Because I know some people have had, unfortunately,
not great ones,
horrible experience, but I also don't think that, I tend to hear in the Gurukula community, I tend to hear a lot of the bad experiences, which I completely understand, and I don't think that, we won't get into it, but clearly that was not okay.
Obviously, yeah.
But also now, me as an adult, am so grateful.
Well, it's also good to hear
for the experiences
to hear the people
that I
didn't have about it.
Exactly.
The way it affected people in a good way.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada also inspired the construction of several large international culture centers in India. At Sri Dham Mayapur in West Bengal, devotees are building a spiritual city centered on a magnificent temple, which they're almost done building now. An ambitious project for which construction will extend over many years to come. In Vrindavan, there are the Krishna Balaram Temple and International Guest House, the Gurukula School, which is where we went, and Srila Prabhupada Memorial and Museum. There are also major temples and cultural centers in Mumbai, New Delhi, Baroda, Tirupati, Ahmedabad, Siliguri, and Ujjain. Other centers are planned in many important locations on the Indian subcontinent. Srila Prabhupada's most significant contribution, however, are his books. Highly respected by scholars for their authority, depth, and clarity, they are used as textbooks in numerous college courses. His writings have been translated into over 50 languages. The Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, established in 1972 to publish the works of His Divine Grace, has become the world's largest publisher of books in the field of Indian religion and philosophy. In just 12 years, despite his advanced age, Srila Prabhupada circled the globe 14 times on lecture tours that took him to 6 continents. In spite of such a vigorous schedule, Srila Prabhupada continued to write prolifically. His writings constitute a veritable library of Vedic philosophy, religion, literature, and culture. The end. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, Jai.
Yeah, there's many places where, like, his disciples or other people would say that, like, he would only sleep like 4 or 5 hours a night.
Yeah,
he'd wake up at like 2, 3 in the morning sometimes and be sitting there dictating into the microphone. And after a while, he would dictate, and then his disciples would translate and do that. But for the longest time, he was doing all that on his own. Like, oh my God.
It was a lot of work. Well, it was good. So, that's the end of Coming Back, Science of Realization, and we'll begin next, I think, on the Bhagavad Gita, and like you said, maybe we'll do the Easy Journey, or maybe a few other paperback books here and there amongst it, but we can get into the Bhagavad Gita as our main.
Bhagavad Gita is good. I mean, it's not that daunting if we read...
no, just read a couple
few verses and the translations.
All right, so we'll end this recording here. Thank you,
everyone. All right, thank you, guys.
A couple of people that may be watching it. And we'll see you next time.
Yep.